Princess Celiana stood at the edge of the moonlight garden, her slender fingers brushing against the silvery petals of the Lumina lilies. The late afternoon sun cast long, violet shadows over the marble walkways. She inhaled slowly, trying to steady her racing heart. Today was the day she would meet the famous human ambassador, Jason Cole, for the very first time. Celiana had spent weeks preparing. She practiced formal greetings in her mirror, adjusting the tilt of her head and the curl of her lips. She studied human customs from dusty archives in the palace library. Still, nothing could calm the flutter deep in her chest. She was shy by nature, and the idea of speaking to someone from another world made her hands tremble. A gentle ripple of excitement passed through the garden's illuminated fountain as Jason approached. His tall frame, dressed in a crisp white, diplomatic uniform, contrasted sharply with the soft colors of the courtyard. He paused at the garden gate, his dark hair catching the last rays of sunlight. He looked around with genuine wonder, his light blue eyes scanning the strange flowers and floating light orbs. Celiana watched him from behind a row of moonvine arches. He moved with easy confidence, yet there was kindness in the curve of his shoulders and the way he paused to admire a glowing orb that hovered above the riverstone. That simple gesture made Celiana's heart skip. She stepped forward, smoothing her lavender gown. "Welcome to Illyria, Ambassador Cole," she said, her voice soft but clear. Jason turned, surprised, and offered her a warm smile. "Thank you, Your Highness," he replied with a slight bow. His accent was gentle, with a soothing roll on the R sounds. "It is an honor to be here." Her cheeks warmed. She tucked a loose strand of silver hair behind her ear. "I hope the journey was comfortable," she said, focusing on the lilies at her feet. "Our skyliners are unique." "Very comfortable," Jason said, stepping closer to examine the flowers. "I have never seen anything like these Lumina lilies. They seem almost alive." Celiana let a small laugh escape. "They do glow on moonlit nights," she explained, lifting one flower to show him. Its petals pulsed with a soft blue light. "They are a symbol of hope in our culture." Jason's eyes lit up. "Hope. I like that." He gently touched a petal. "On Earth we use light in many ways, but nothing quite speaks of hope like this." A warm pride filled Celiana. She straightened, regaining some of her confidence. "Let me show you more of the garden," she said. "There is a fountain that plays music when the water flows." "As you wish," Jason replied. They walked side by side along the marble path. Celiana pointed out the floating orbs, explaining they were bioluminescent creatures that lived in the palace ponds. Jason listened intently, nodding and asking questions. Every now and then he glanced at Celiana's face, seeking her approval before he spoke. Celiana's heart beat faster at his kind attention. At the center of the garden lay the starlight fountain. Water arced in graceful curves, scattering droplets that shimmered like diamonds. Beneath the surface, lenses and crystals refracted the sunlight, creating soft music. The notes rose and fell like a gentle lullaby. Jason closed his eyes to listen. "This is beautiful," he whispered. Then he opened his eyes and found Celiana watching him. He offered her a shy smile. "I have never heard anything like it." She smiled back, relief washing over her. "It took our best engineers and artists to work together," she said. "They wanted the fountain to represent how different elements can come together in harmony." Jason's gaze softened. "Harmony," he repeated. "That is something Earth needs more of." He looked around at the glowing plants and softly singing water. "I am glad I came here." Celiana's breath caught. She tried to steady her voice. "I am glad you came too." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the music. Celiana realized she was more comfortable now than she had been all morning. Jason's calm presence helped her own nerves settle. She found herself wishing the moment could last forever. The quiet was broken by a soft chiming sound. Celiana checked her wrist console. "Your welcome banquet will begin soon," she said, tapping a small icon. "Shall we go inside?" Jason nodded and offered his arm. Celiana hesitated only for a second before taking it. The touch of his sleeve against hers sent a small thrill through her. Together they walked through the archway into the palace corridors. The halls were lined with tall, swirling tapestries that told the history of Illyria. Celiana guided Jason, past portraits of past rulers, queens who had led armies, rulers who had negotiated peace, and pointed out small details. Jason asked thoughtful questions, and Celiana answered with pride. He clearly respected her knowledge and her heritage. At the grand dining hall, rows of long tables were laid with crystal plates and glowing drink vessels. Guests from many worlds had already begun to arrive. Scientists from Mars, diplomats from Mercury, traders from Venus. All paused to greet Celiana, offering bows or nods. She introduced Jason to each delegation, and he took every chance to compliment their attire or their customs. After the introductions, Celiana led Jason to the head table. A soft hum of conversation filled the air as servants floated by with trays of fruit that glowed in neon colors and bread that tasted like sweet honey. Jason accepted a glowing grape and bit into it with childlike delight. "These are incredible," he said, offering one to Celiana. She accepted it and bit gently. "They are harvested at dawn," she explained. "The sugars are at their peak." Jason's eyes lit up. "You really know your gardens and your foods." Celiana felt a warm glow of pride. She had spent years learning about the palace gardens and the royal orchards. To have Jason praise her knowledge felt wonderful. She realized she was enjoying his company more and more. Across the table, an Illyrian court official tapped his glass and called for attention. "We are honored to welcome Ambassador Jason Cole," he said in a clear voice. "May this evening mark the beginning of a new friendship between Earth and Illyria." Applause echoed through the hall. Jason stood, his cheeks a little pink. He bowed to the crowd, then turned to Celiana. "Thank you," he said softly. "This means a great deal to me, and to all of us from Earth." Celiana smiled. "You honor us, Ambassador. We hope we can live up to your kindness." Jason's eyes met hers. For a moment, they were the only two people in the crowded room. Celiana felt her chest tighten. She wanted to say more, something brave and heartfelt. But the words got caught in her throat. She pressed a hand to her heart, willing herself to breathe. He stepped closer and whispered, "I think we will." Her heart soared at his words. She gave him a small nod, unable to speak. Instead, she let her gaze drift to the glowing chandeliers overhead, wishing she had the courage to tell him how she felt. As music began and dancers took the floor, Celiana and Jason returned to their seats. The evening had only just begun, but already Celiana knew her life had changed forever. She had met the human ambassador, and in his warm eyes she had seen a promise of friendship, maybe even more. And though her shy heart trembled, she felt a hopeful spark ignite within her. The rest of the evening stretched out before them, full of possibility. Celiana took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next, buoyed by the simple magic of a first impression. Princess Celiana awoke the next morning to a soft violet light spilling through her bedroom arches. The memory chamber beneath the palace gardens was still fresh in her mind. How she and Ambassador Jason had shared laughter at the glowing grapes. How his kind eyes had rested on her like a gentle promise. Yet as she dressed in a pale blue gown, her heart trembled with doubt. Down in the private breakfast court, she found Jason already seated by a low table carved from moonstone. He studied a star chart spread before him, marking points with a tiny, silver stylus. When he looked up and saw Celiana, his face brightened. "Good morning, Your Highness," he said, rising to bow slightly. Celiana forced a gentle smile. "Good morning, Ambassador Cole." She sat beside him, trying to steady her voice. "Did you sleep well?" "Very well," Jason replied, tucking the chart away. "Earth sleep cycles are simple compared to yours, but the moonlight lullaby last night was perfect." He chuckled. "I guess I am a light sleeper." Celiana's lips curved in relief. She had feared he might find her world strange. "I'm glad you rested," she said. A small servant floated over bearing fruits, harvested in dawn's light. Celiana accepted a pear that glowed softly. Jason gestured toward the fruit. On Earth, we call this a biolight pear. We've tried something similar but never achieved this glow. Celiana brightened. It's special to Illyria. I grow them in the royal orchards. She paused, then asked, Ambassador, may I ask you something? Personal? Jason set down his cup. Of course. Celiana's cheeks colored. She took a breath. Are you single? I mean, unmarried on Earth? Jason blinked, surprised. Then he laughed softly. Single? Yes, I am single. I don't have a spouse or partner back home. Celiana's heart thundered. She had rehearsed this question a dozen times. Relief flooded her. He was free, she thought, free to care for her. But then a tremor of fear crept in. If he was single, why did he speak of a secret mission last night? She remembered the vague words he used. Something about my own duties. Perhaps he was hiding a betrothal or engaged to someone important. Fear made her chest tighten. I see, she said, forcing calm. That is good. Jason raised an eyebrow. Good? Celiana swallowed. Yes, good. She sipped her tea and turned her gaze to the window, where golden morning light bathed the palace gardens. She told herself she was glad, but her mind raced with worry. What if Jason had someone back home but wouldn't admit it? What if she was overstepping by asking? He watched her quietly for a moment, then reached to adjust the map on the table. Princess, today I'd like to visit the Archives of Light. The Council thinks patterns in your solar charts might help Earth scientists predict our own solar flares. Celiana nodded. Of course, the archives are far from here, but I will accompany you. Jason smiled gratefully. Thank you. He stood to leave, and Celiana followed. Through wide palace corridors, they walked in companionable silence. Celiana pointed out tapestries woven from starlight threads, and Jason paused to admire each one. Yet underneath her calm words, her heart raced. As they reached the sunlit courtyard leading to the archives, Jason suddenly stopped and said with a grin, You know, Princess, Earth diplomats have a habit of joking about their single status. It's a light-hearted way to show they are open to friendship, maybe even more. Celiana's breath caught. She turned to face him, eyes wide. More? Jason laughed softly, thinking she was teasing. Yes, more. We sometimes say we are single and ready to mingle. Mingle? Celiana repeated, twisting her fingers around the strap of her gown. In Illyrian court speech, mingle meant to move among crowds, to make polite conversation. Yet she could not shake the double meaning. He was single and ready to mingle. Mingle with her? She felt herself flush, and her shy heart fluttered. Jason noticed her silence. It's a silly phrase, he said, waving a hand. I don't really mean more than friendship, I suppose. Celiana forced a polite nod. Her throat went dry. He did not know the damage his words caused. She had believed in a growing bond between them, but now she wondered if it was only diplomatic banter to him. He was single and ready to mingle, perhaps flirting with every envoy in the council. She lowered her eyes. That makes sense. Jason frowned, puzzled by her distant tone. Princess, are you all right? Celiana dipped her head. She did not trust her voice. I'm fine. But she was not fine. Emotional tides crashed within her. She longed to ask him to explain, truly explain, his feelings. Yet the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she led the way to the courtyard. The path to the archives. Wound through manicured hedges that glowed like emerald glass. At its center stood a translucent dome of crystal, inside which ancient scrolls floated in zero gravity. Jason's eyes widened at the sight. This is incredible, he breathed. How do you keep them safe? Celiana recovered a bit of her composure. Our conservators of light maintain the temperature and field density, she explained. But, please, Ambassador, allow me to show you. She guided him inside. The air was cool and silent, save for the hum of protective wards. They drifted toward a floating scroll etched with sun cycle data. Jason gently touched it, and characters shimmered beneath his fingers. As they studied the scroll, Celiana watched Jason's face. He looked fascinated, eager, not flirtatious. Yet her heart still stung with doubt. If he cared so much for her world, why had he laughed about being single and ready to mingle? Why had he not told her more of his true feelings? Jason broke the silence. Princess, I'm honored you showed me this. I will work with Earth's scientists to adapt these solar readings. Your people's knowledge could save millions. Celiana's eyes stung. His focus on duty and knowledge felt warm, safe, but it also laid bare her own fear that she mattered only as a diplomat, not as a person. I am glad to help, she said softly. Your plan for cooperation. It is important to me. Jason looked at her, his expression open. And your friendship is important to me, Princess Celiana. Friendship. The word floated between them. Not quite love, but something more than polite duty. Celiana's chest loosened a little. Perhaps she had misunderstood his joking words. Perhaps he truly valued her, even if he spoke lightly of his single status. A distant chime echoed through the dome. Celiana checked her wrist console. The council meeting begins soon, she said. Jason nodded. Right. Let us prepare. They drifted back toward the dome entrance. Celiana's mind whirled, but she pushed aside her doubts. She would trust Jason's kindness until he gave her reason not to. And if she found the courage, she would ask him to explain his feelings more clearly. Before her shy heart overflowed. Again, as they stepped into the courtyard light, she said, Ambassador, about your secret mission. Jason paused in surprise. You know about that? Celiana met his eyes, determined. I heard hints last night. You did not tell me everything. Jason glanced away, his cheeks coloring. It's complicated, but I want you to know what I do here is to help Illyria. Nothing more. Celiana's heart fluttered. She nodded. Thank you for trusting me. He offered a small, genuine smile. I trust you, Princess. For a moment they stood together in the warm sunshine, doubts and misread words lingering between them. Yet in that golden glow, Celiana felt hope. She resolved to speak her heart soon and to listen to his words with an open mind, so that their bond, whatever form it took, would grow strong and true. And so part 2 ended with questions hanging in the air, but with the promise that misread signals could be corrected by honest words and shared purpose. Celiana and Jason walked toward the council, each carrying hopes and fears, ready to face the next challenge together. Princess Celiana led Ambassador Jason Cole through the marble halls of the Grand Council chamber. Her gown's soft silk rustled against the polished floor. Jason walked beside her, his shoulders squared with quiet purpose. Both carried thoughts. They hesitated to speak aloud. At the chamber doors, Celiana paused. She took a steadying breath and glanced at Jason. His dark eyes met hers, full of concern. Princess, he said softly, are you certain you wish to hear my full plan? Celiana nodded. Yes, she whispered. I need to understand. They entered the chamber together. Tall crystal pillars lined the walls, each glowing with a gentle inner light. Grand portraits of past rulers watched from above. At the far end, senior council members sat behind a curved dais. Their faces were serious but welcoming. Celiana stepped forward and spoke clearly. Esteemed council, Ambassador Cole has a plan to help Illyria. He wishes to share its full details with us. Murmurs rippled through the room. Jason bowed his head respectfully. He lifted a slim data slate from his cloak. Thank you, Princess Celiana and honored council members. On Earth we face many environmental challenges. We have learned how to heal dying oceans and restore damaged ecosystems. I propose a joint effort, human and Illyrian, using what we call Biosphere drones. A council member raised an eyebrow. Biosphere drones? He asked. His voice was cautious but curious. Jason pressed a control on the slate. A holographic model appeared above it. Dozens of small, sleek devices shaped like glowing fish. They darted through a simulated sea, releasing biogel clouds that turned red, lifeless water into clear blue. These drones carry special biogel, Jason explained. On Earth, we tested them in coral reefs. The gel binds with pollutants, breaks them down, and helps new coral grow. It works gently without harming local life. I believe we can adapt it to Illuria's waters. The council leaned forward. Celiana's heart pounded. She watched Jason speak with calm confidence. His words were precise. She felt pride that he trusted her world enough to share this gift. A second council member spoke. These sea worms, in Illuria's southern seas, produce a natural enzyme. It could enhance the biogel's effect. But our waters have unique chemistry. How will Earth's drones adjust? Jason tapped the slate again. The hologram shifted to show data charts and side-by-side comparisons of water samples. Our scientists will work with Illurian conservators of light. We will calibrate the release mechanisms. Together, we ensure the biogel bonds only to harmful compounds here. We will also program the drones to retreat if they detect living organisms nearby. Safety is our priority. Silence fell as the council absorbed the proposal. Celiana held her breath. Each moment felt long. Finally, the chief counselor stood. Ambassador Cole, she said, her clear voice echoing. Your plan is bold and generous. But forgive me, Princess. Why has he kept this secret until now? Celiana's chest tightened. She swallowed and turned to Jason. His face was earnest. Princess, he began, I did not wish to alarm you. His voice trembled slightly. When I first arrived, I knew you expected a simple diplomatic mission. I was afraid that revealing a grand scientific plan would make you think I cared more for Earth than for you. I thought you might see me as cold or manipulative. Whispers spread through the chamber. Celiana felt her cheeks flush. She took a step toward Jason. Ambassador, she said softly, your fears hurt me more than if you had never told me. I want honesty. I want truth, even if it scares me. Jason's eyes shone. He exhaled slowly. He set down the slate and took a small step toward her. Then hear this, he said, his voice steady. I came here for 2 reasons. 1, to offer Earth's help to Illuria. 2, because of you. He reached out but hesitated, unsure if she would let him. From the first moment I saw you in the Moonlight Garden, I felt a connection. Your gentle way, your love for your world. I knew then that my mission was not just political, it was personal. A hush fell over the chamber. Council members exchanged surprised looks. Celiana's breath caught. She felt tears prick her eyes. Jason continued, his voice low but clear. I am single, Princess Celiana. My heart belongs only to this mission. And to you, if you will have me. He held his ground, simple words laid bare. Celiana's hand tightened on her gown. She gathered courage she did not know she possessed. She stepped forward, closing the small distance between them. Jason, she said, using his first name for the first time. She reached out and placed a trembling hand on his forearm. I was angry that you hid your plan from me, but I understand why you feared my reaction. I care for you too. Her voice wavered. I only know bits of you, but what I know fills me with hope. Jason's face lit with relief. He gently took her hand in both of his. That hope, he said, is stronger than any fear. Celiana looked up at the council. Let us work together, she declared. Illuria and Earth side by side. Jason's plan will heal our seas and perhaps heal our hearts as well. A wave of applause rippled through the chamber. Council. Members rose, some with tears in their eyes. The chief counselor smiled proudly. So it is decided, she announced. We pledge our resources and knowledge. We welcome Ambassador Cole's drones in his heart. Jason bowed deeply to the council, then turned to Celiana. Thank you. he whispered. For your trust and for your heart. Celiana's eyes glowed. She pressed his hand and offered her own bow. Thank you, Jason, she replied. For everything. As the chamber filled with excitement, the princess and the ambassador stood side by side. Their secret had become a promise, their fears turned into courage. In that grand hall of light and history, they forged a bond that would shape two worlds, and so part 3 ends with a vow. Hearts laid bare, plans revealed, and two souls ready to face the future. Together. Morning light filtered through the stained glass windows of the Royal Laboratory wing. Princess Celiana stood before the great machinery chasm, watching engineers adjust copper coils that hummed with Illurian energy. Ambassador Jason Cole stepped beside her, holding a slim tablet that glowed with Earth data. Around them, human scientists and Illurian conservators of light moved in careful harmony. For the first time, two worlds worked as one. Celiana smiled, her nerves eased by the steady buzz of activity. Our palace conduits can power the biosphere drones, she said, pointing to the quivering rods of captured starlight energy. Illurian, energy is pure and constant. It will keep them running even in deep waters. Jason nodded, tapping his tablet. On Earth, we rely on solar panels that don't work at night. Your conduits will solve that problem. I'll adjust the drone software, so they draw power directly from your grid. He looked up at her with bright eyes. I think this could be the first ever hybrid power system in the galaxy. A lead engineer, a tall Illurian named Maris, hovered forward. Princess Ambassador, we have integrated the conduit interface. Would you like to test the first power-up? She gestured to a small fish-shaped drone cradled in a reinforced glass bowl. Celiana took a breath and placed her hand on the activation plate. Jason stood close and laid a reassuring hand on her arm. Ready? He asked softly. Ready? She replied. Together they pressed the plate. Light pulsed through the drone's core. Its biogel fins glowed a soft green and the machine drifted on a cushion of air. A soft whir accompanied the glow and a hush fell over the room. It works, Jason whispered. The conduit power module is stable. Celiana's heart leapt. It's beautiful, she said. She reached out and gently touched the drone's fin. It responded by dimming the glow. Engineers cheered softly. Maris bowed. The first step is complete. Now we adapt the biogel formula for Illurian seas. Over the next hours, teams gathered around workstations laden with flasks of glowing gel, vials of enzyme extracts, and digital readouts. Jason and Celiana moved from station to station. At one table, Earth chemist Dr. Leon explained how to adjust pH levels. Celiana carefully measured Illurian seawater samples. When the mixture turned a brilliant azure, she let out a small laugh. Jason grinned. You did it, he said. Your sample made the difference. Celiana felt her cheeks warm. Your instructions were perfect. She met his gaze. I could not have done it without you. Jason bowed his head, pleased. We make a good team. By midday, the lab's central testing pool, a circular tank filled with Illurian seawater, was ready. The first fully powered drone, its biogel, fins sparkling, was lowered into the water by hovering harnesses. Scientists and council members gathered behind protective glass. Celiana and Jason stood at the control console. Jason activated the drone. It dipped its nose into the water, then swam out into the center of the pool. Its lights pulsed in a rhythmic pattern. A soft hiss sounded as the biogel release mechanism began working. Within seconds, tendrils of pale blue gel drifted into the water. Where the gel touched, algae spores clung and began to sprout. Gasps rose from the onlookers as a small colony of algae bloomed on a dead coral fragment placed for testing. Within minutes, the fragment looked vibrant, its ridges tinged with living green. It's alive, Celiana breathed. She pressed a finger to her lips. It's really alive. Jason placed a hand over hers. Illurian algae, Earth biogel, a new beginning. He stepped back and gave her space, letting the moment belong to both of them. Council members applauded. The chief counselor approached with a broad smile. "This is more than science," she said. "It is hope. Hope for our oceans. Hope for our people. Hope for a shared future." Celiana bowed her head in gratitude. Jason mirrored her gesture. The two stood together, their silhouettes framed by the glowing pool and the cheering crowd. After the celebration, Celiana guided Jason to a quiet balcony overlooking the restored section of Palace Gardens. The sky glowed in deep lavender, and gentle breezes carried the scent of Lumina lilies. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Jason corrected, stepping close. "Your world, your people, made it happen. I only brought the idea." Celiana looked up at him. "Your idea was important. Without your courage to share it, we never would have tried." She paused. "Thank you for trusting me with your secret plan." Jason held her gaze. "And thank you for trusting me with your world." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Celiana, have you ever considered that our two planets are like these drones? Each powerful alone, but stronger when linked?" Celiana's throat tightened. She pressed a hand to her chest. "I have," she admitted. "But I never believed it until now." Jason took her hand. Their fingers fit together easily. "I want to build that stronger link. For your people. For Earth. And for us." Celiana held his gaze. The gentle breeze lifted strands of silver hair around her face. "Then let us make it true," she said. She raised her free hand and touched his cheek lightly. Together. Jason's face softened into a warm smile. He leaned forward and brushed his forehead against hers. "Together," he echoed. They stood on the balcony as the twin suns of Illyria set, their light fading into a tapestry of stars. Below, the palace gardens glowed with renewed life. Above them, the first prototypes of the biosphere drones lifted into the sky, ready for their journey to the open seas. In that moment, Princess Celiana and Ambassador Jason Cole felt a bond that reached beyond planets. It was a bond of shared vision and heartfelt trust. They had united their worlds and, in doing so, had united their hearts. And as the stars winked awake, they knew the next chapters would bring new challenges. But whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, guided by hope, respect, and the simple truth that together, anything was possible. Months passed, and Illyria's southern seas began to shimmer with new life. Biosphere drones, powered by the palace's starlight conduits and guided by Earth's careful programming, had spread biogel across miles of coral plains. Tiny tendrils of algae had bloomed on once dull coral, and schools of glowing silverfish returned to feed among the reefs. Early on a clear morning, Princess Celiana stood on the cliffside terrace overlooking the water. Her pale lavender dress fluttered in the gentle breeze. Ambassador Jason Cole joined her, carrying a small glass vial of the very first biogel sample they had mixed in the royal laboratories. It now held living algae, rich and green, a symbol of hope. "They said it would be impossible," Jason said, handing the vial to Celiana. "That Illyria's ocean chemistry was too strange. But here we are." Celiana smiled, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "Hope is stronger than doubt." She held the vial to the light. "This little world in a glass shows what can happen when we work together." Jason watched her face. He thought of all the late nights they had spent analyzing data, of the moments when Celiana's quiet determination had lifted his own spirits. "You were the heart of this effort," he said softly. Celiana's cheeks warmed. "We did it together," she replied. "Your people taught us new methods, and my people offered knowledge of our seas. Each side needed the other." Jason nodded. "Just like us," he said, stepping closer. "Your world and mine, side by side." They stood in comfortable silence, gazing at the sparkling ocean below. Then Celiana turned and offered her hand. Jason took it, and they walked down, The marble steps toward the shining white platform where the celebration would begin. A crowd had gathered on the beach, Illyrian council members in flowing robes of violet and silver, human scientists in crisp white jackets, local fishers who had feared the ocean's decline, and curious visitors from distant planets. All eyes were on the restored coral reefs visible in the shallow waters, glowing faintly under the rising twin suns. Standing before the assembled crowd, Celiana cleared her throat and raised her hands for silence. Jason stood at her side. "Friends of Illyria and Earth," Celiana began, her voice carrying over the gentle waves. "Today we see that hope can become reality. Months ago, we watched our seas fade. We feared the loss of life beneath the waves. Yet through courage, friendship, and shared vision, we have renewed our world." She gestured toward the water. "These are the first living coral blooms since time I cannot remember. They are proof that two peoples, bound by respect and curiosity, can heal what was broken." Applause rolled through the crowd like soft thunder. Celiana smiled and continued. "Ambassador Jason Cole came here with a secret plan, in part to help my people, and in part because of the bond he felt with me. I once feared that his heart belonged elsewhere, but he showed me truth and kindness. Today I stand here not just as your princess, but as his friend, and something more." Jason lifted a small silver box from his coat pocket. He opened it to reveal a simple ring made of biogel and Illyrian starlight crystals, half glowing blue like Earth seas, half glowing violet like Illyrian lilies. "Princess Celiana," he said, his voice clear, "you taught me that true strength comes from trust and shared purpose. You helped me understand your world's beauty and fragility. You captured my heart with your gentle courage. Will you continue this journey with me? By my side, as my partner, as we face whatever the future holds?" A breathless hush fell. Celiana's eyes filled with tears and her hand rose to her mouth. She looked at Jason, then at the glowing ring, then back at the restored ocean. "Yes," she whispered at last. "1,000 times. Yes." Jason slipped the ring onto her finger. It adjusted itself to her slender hand and began to glow softly in response to her warmth. He took her other hand, and together they faced the crowd. The chief counselor stepped forward, her eyes bright. "By the power vested in me by the Council of Light and by the friendship between Earth and Illyria, I pronounce you partners in purpose and in heart. May your union guide our worlds to peace and growth." Cheers erupted. Human scientists clapped and smiled. Illyrian nobles waved, and fishers laughed with joy. Fireworks made of spinning biogel orbs rose over the water, scattering glowing droplets that fell like enchanted rain. As the celebration continued, Celiana and Jason walked hand in hand along the shore. Sea foam lapped at their feet, and small glowing crabs scuttled across the sand. Jason bent and picked one up gently in his palm, showing it to Celiana. "On Earth we call them sea fire crabs," he said. "Light carries many meanings." Celiana laughed. "On Illyria, they are called hope scuttlers." Jason placed the tiny creature back on the sand and watched it disappear. "Hope scuttlers," he repeated. "I like that." They walked in companionable silence until they reached a small cove where children from both worlds played together, building sand sculptures of drones and corals. Celiana knelt and watched them, her heart full. "These children," she said, "they will never know a time when our worlds were apart. They will grow up knowing Earth and Illyria are one family." Jason knelt beside her. "They will carry forward what we started," he agreed, "and they will do it with more wisdom than we have today." Celiana turned to him. "What comes next?" she asked. Jason looked out at the horizon where the twin suns shone brightly. "We continue," he said. "We share our knowledge, medicine, technology, art. We explore new frontiers together. And we face challenges as one." Celiana nodded, feeling a thrill of excitement. "Together," she echoed. They rose and walked back toward the palace, leaving footprints in the glowing sand. As they climbed the steps, Celiana paused and looked back at the sea one last time. "Thank you," she whispered, though Jason could hear her, "for believing in my world, and in me." Jason slipped an arm around her waist and smiled. "Thank you," he replied, "for showing me how hope can change everything." They entered the grand hall where music played and dancers twirled in gowns of soft light. Around them, the celebration of renewal and unity continued deep into the night. But in that moment, as they joined hands and stepped into the future, Celiana and Jason knew that the greatest adventure lay not in politics or power, but in the simple act of believing in each other, and in the promise of a new dawn for both their worlds. And so ends Part 5, a chapter of renewal, partnership, and hope, as two souls and two planets embark on a shared journey under Alluria's twin suns and Earth's guiding stars.